the Nerd O'Clock News, Q4 2020. The facts as I know them are not facts but theories. Thus, elements of the following fantastical, known partial truths may be founded upon fragments of fruity fiction, and any similarity such content might manifest to entities and events within your realm of reality is purely coincidental. Ampere Aftermath. Throughout the 2 Earth years that it took for Turing's lustre to tarnish in the prevailing tempest of technological advancement, the rumours, speculation and propaganda regarding its successor made pervasive sponsored promotions of raid shadow legends seem as scarce as a Rembrandt original, while the toxic Twittersphere, a proverbial stake through the soul of assiduous journalism, precipitated leaks that would have sunk Noah's Ark before the penguins and pandas remembered to sit 2 metres apart, triggering hours of rambling, clickbait-riddled, self-righteous talking head monologues that were both intrusive to viewers and disruptive to YouTube's computational curation. Had the slim majority borne a passing resemblance to the eventual truth, the impractical notion of validating sources when working to deadlines, combined with a perpetual desperation to satisfy and augment one's subscriber base, might have adequately rationalised the decision to favour quantity over quality. However, when dipping our tentative toes into some hastily collated data, the wealth of glaring inaccuracies suggests a contagious compulsion to contaminate tomorrow's facts with next month's fiction, provided a little silent bell keeps ringing. This purportedly rasterized table provisionally confirms the officially unofficial specifications of Ampere's 3 supposed variants as of the witcher's hour on the 31st of August 2020, as alleged by a litany of unverified reports. By cunning aid of the text highlight tool in one of the last offline editions of Microsoft Office, we can efficiently establish which expert forecasts proved credible and which fell wider of the mark than Nostradamus' lottery ticket. Red for wrong, green for right, with no subliminal influence whatsoever intended, and since this is just another method of parroting out figures you've already heard 69 extrillion 3080 times over, we'll skimp on expounding at length, too late, and instead deep dive headfirst into some profoundly tedious percentages. Out of 132 predicted statistics, the irredeemably speculative tech community achieved a combined success rate of 60, or 45.4%, which is just slightly worse than you get from guessing.
But you see that's not entirely fair, is it? I mean, only allowing true or false fails to account for close estimates such as the ROPS and core speed. Had those been spot on, the pixel rate would have also been correct.
I don't care. If anything, I've been over-generous by accepting the GPU name as a correct answer. I mean, even a die-hard 3DFX retro rebel would have known that. And just look at the tensor cores, way off, and the RT cores, miles out, and the floating point throughput, not in the same multiverse. As for the CUDA cores, useless! Useless! Useless!
Now, don't blow your memory bus. You still have a rather long line of inquiries to address.
What? Where? Oh, hello. I didn't see you all there. Please. How may I help?
Thank you. Will I require a PCI Express 4.0 motherboard to circumnavigate an interface-induced performance bottleneck?
Well, other than during workloads which depend heavily on memory involving exceptionally copious data transfers between the system RAM and GPU, no.
Yeah, well, that's all very well and
good.
No,
can I finish? Moreover, such scenarios are especially rare in the realm of gaming and regardless are nothing beyond the scope of a skilled developer to resolve.
Should I consider buying one to upgrade an older computer? How much of a performance improvement can I expect to procure?
That much depends on the exact age of the system's key components and the skew of the workloads you're assigning them. The older the CPU, the more likely it is to prevent the GPU from performing to its optimum potential, and the more proactive you may need to be in applying changes to avail its benefits. If the games you're currently playing are already taking your processor to its limits, a faster video card won't yield any notable or perhaps even marginal gains. Imagine a warehouse where 2 workers are picking the orders and 2 octopuses are packing them up. Adding a 3rd octopus won't speed up the shipping process because all 3 would still be twiddling their tentacles while the pickers were desperately scrambling to pull parts off shelves.
I think you'll find octopuses don't have opposable thumbs.
No, that's right, they have opposable suckers.
Yes, but I don't think that you can honestly...
Oh, shut up. All architectures being equal, Ryzens will generally yield a commensurately lower increase compared to an equivalent Intel chip on account of the latter's light-threaded agility and most games favouring frequency over core quota. Though of course, Zen 3 changed all that after this video was made. Didn't it?
So I have an i7-7700K with a 1080 Ti. Should I upgrade?
Yes, that should deliver a sizable increase, especially when gaming at 1440p and above, though you may need to crank up the eye candy if your frame rates are cosmically high.
I got a Ryzen 7 2700X on an MSI B450 motherboard. Would that be enough?
What video card?
1660 Ti.
Yes, good to go there too.
Even better, perhaps. Should I replace my Radeon 7? I have it partnered with a Ryzen 5 3600X. On a Gigabyte Aorus X470.
The Radeon 7 is a tad slower than a 1080 Ti, and the 3600X is barely pipped by a 7700K, so logically another affirmative, unless you're a Ruby rebel and would rather hold out for Big Navi.
And what about my Asus Z170A with a 6700K and an RTX 2060 Super? Any good?
Ah, Skylake's inaugural Supremo, a fine performer indeed, and not a single tick per cycle behind KB Lake's King of Ks. So once again, purchase in peace and expect healthy returns.
How about a Haswell 4970K on a Z97 board and a GTX 1070?
The Devil's Canyon would still burn bright in response to Ampere's radiant light. Almost certainly another productive investment. Unless you're looking to couple it with a cutting-edge G-Sync panel and exploit variable refresh rates above 300 Hz, then you might struggle.
Should I upgrade my 1800X? It's with an R9
Would a Threadripper 1950X be okay if I swapped out
I've
my
got a coffee
Vega
like
Frontier? I'm using an ASRock
I've got an R9 Fury
Wait, listen. Any current or imminent Ampere card combined with any Intel i5, i7 or i9 or AMD Ryzen 5, 7, 9 or Threadripper processor from as far back as Haswell and Zen 1 that's replacing any direct, lesser or greater GeForce or Radeon predecessor from Kepler and GCN2 onward would yield marked improvements. I think that's a sane enough claim and certainly covers any further combos.
Yeah, but how much of an improvement?
Well, that varies massively according to what you're upgrading from and the software you're running on it.
Well, give us a ballpark.
I can't without knowing specific components. Now we're going round in circles.
Well, we'll just focus on the previous generations then. How much from Maxwell to Ampere?
If we're talking a linear upgrade to your card's direct descendant, assuming all of their Ampere variants will materialise, which they will, then coming from Maxwell, close to 3 times faster, from Pascal, roughly double the speed, and about a 50 to 60% boost over Turing. But more if you're ditching a Tensor or RT bereft card and using Ampere to apply DLSS in games that you were previously running with non-neurally engineered image enhancements at native unupscaled resolutions with software-accelerated ray tracing.
60% over Turing? That's nonsense. All the reviews I've seen have it 25% max.
That's the 3080 relative to a 2080 Ti. Old top tier against new upper mid tier, not a direct comparison.
But the 3080 is the 2080 Ti successor. Jensen said, new flagship GPU.
Yes, new flagship GPU, not new flagship card. Don't you worry, there'll be a Super and a Ti and maybe even a Super Ti. Seriously, when did Nvidia last terminate a product SKU or pass up the chance to profit from the yield curve? No chipmaker fills in those micro-market gaps like the greedy green giant, except perhaps the money-grabbing blue baron.
What, you mean IBM?
Very funny.
So what about a Ryzen 1600X?
Would a 3070 work well on an i5 4690 on my Gigabyte Z87
on an
No,
Asus
no,
B450
no
Plus.
more questions. Seriously, you want to save time? Go to gpucheck.com. It's a fathomless fountain of priceless knowledge where these critical combinations are concerned. Almost every balanced, unbalanced, mismatched, or utterly unhinged partnership of GPU and CPU you can possibly conceive of, with a pretty decent estimate of which will prove a happy, healthy marriage, and which would amount to asking a pigeon to foster a penguin. You can instantly analyse the positive and negative impact each has on performance in forensic detail across a plethora of popular games at multiple resolutions and quality levels, list any two configurations side by side, and evaluate precisely which is the superior solution from a financial or performance perspective on a frame-by-frame or cost-per-frame basis, based on current market prices even for discontinued products, and with every single discrepancy calculated in numerical and percentage terms. It is a data junkie's delight, a statistician's sanctuary, and a truly indispensable resource for any jaded technophile who'd rather not squander their speed-obsessed existence clicking the progress slider under 100 video reviews in search of an answer that lasts 3 seconds, if it's even there at all.
How would an i9-10920X cope if I upgraded from a pair of RTX 2070 Supers on an MSI X299X?
Fine. Cascade Lake only came out last year. It's not even old.
Great, thanks a lot.
Hey, wait, look. Just don't bother getting two 3070s. Nvidia has now officially disowned multi-GPU gaming and left it up to developers to implement at their discretion, which is a bit like asking a scientist to invent a complicated cure for an extinct disease. In other words, the proverbial white elephant. That's it, folks. Signing off. See you at some point.
Wait. What about my Sandy Bridge?
Excuse me.
My Sandy Bridge i7 2600K. It's with a GTX 970.
Old habits live forever, don't they? What motherboard?
An Asus P8P67 Pro.
Revision B3?
Yes. A free swap.
Power supply?
Corsair TX650.
Give it a try.
What?
Give it a try. With a 3070 you should sneak under the wire. A 3080 might stretch you to 700 watts, but a new power supply won't go amiss because you'll carry it over whenever you upgrade your whole system. Oh, you might also want to root around for a refurbished Ivy Bridge i7 3770K, or some such, to at least avail yourself of PCI Express 3. But who knows, 2 might suffice. I've witnessed success from stranger component cocktails.
Yes, but I mean, how can I know for sure before...
Listen, go to GPU Check and punch in the details. You'll get all the facts and figures in a lucidly presented format.
You can't just fob me off with some website. I want to know your personal recommendation.
I'm as in the dark as you, so its answer is as good as mine.
But I need to see first-hand evidence from a trustworthy source, not a database accrued from results generated by a bazillion systems that I can't possibly know the specific configurations and settings of.
Well, I'm afraid I can't help you there.
But why?
Because I'm not looking at any more of Steve Burke's bloody bar charts!